Observe the specimen forced to return to her original nesting grounds.
The alpha male issues a command. The dormant wrenwood case is now active. He acknowledges the unsettled tragedy. The directives are absolute. A perimeter is established. Other members of the pack guard this fractured urban habitat.
The structure is dying. A fatal curiosity. It began in silence. The matriarch leads a desperate flight through the shadows, navigating a labyrinth that is rapidly closing in. But they are not alone. The ritual is gruesome: blood, fire, and a relentless organism that simply refuses to succumb to its injuries. Raccoon City is a nightmare without end.
Our subject returns to the fray, but this time the infection is personal.
Every corner hides a horror, and the shadows crawl with things worse than zombies. Observe the predator Victor, a scarred psychopath with a twisted plan.
As the world collapses, Leon must find the source before he loses himself.
Observe the specimen, freshly awakened and hopelessly inserted in a living nightmare. Every shadow watches, and every threshold crossed leads to further degradation. She seeks an exit, yet the very environment collapses beneath her desperate feet.
A chilling realization follows. Stealth is no longer an option.
Observe the human subject as she enters what can only be described as a death trap. Every corridor presents a new nightmare, and time is a luxury they no longer possess.
Whether evading the mindless undead or a madman with a chainsaw, the instinct is clear. And here we find the architect of this chaos. Then there is the child. In this environment, survival is not a matter of luck, but a testament to sheer speed. Even against impossible odds, the apex predator, Leon, never misses his mark.
It is a brutal cycle of kill or be killed. In this crumbling ecosystem, every shadow conceals a predator, and every sound signals a lethal threat. The habitat is fracturing around the subject.
Silence is the only defense. A rare encounter with another of its kind. Spotted!
In this concrete labyrinth, every shadow hides a nightmare. The juvenile male struggles as the dead to stay down. When ammunition fails, he must rely on primal, brutal displays of physical dominance. In this ecosystem, cooperation is fleeting, and the apex predator is always watching. Deep within the subterranean labyrinth, a predator watches from the shadows. Here we find a grim graveyard of specimens that defy every known law of nature. When the creature strikes, higher thought vanishes, replaced by the raw, desperate instinct to survive. The darkness yields an endless supply of mutations, each more grotesque than the last. Resources are depleted. Observe the human operative, now deep within a failing ecosystem. She secures a vulnerable survivor, unaware that a new predator has escaped containment. Natural hierarchies crumble as these twisted specimens reclaim their territory. Get back, you beasts. The habitat has become a lethal trap, stained by the inevitable cost of survival. In this environment, disaster strikes with sudden, violent precision. The alpha struggles to protect his kin amidst the wreckage. He stalks through the shadows, hunting for his lost charge. A high-caliber tool becomes his primary means of survival. Navigation here is treacherous, as unseen eyes track every movement. A single errant movement within these industrial corridors results in instant termination. Altruistic instincts often lead to tragedy, leaving only the crushing weight of survival.
As artificial illumination returns, the apex predator reveals its presence within the shadows. A specimen of mutated biology descends, driven by a primal and insatiable hunger. Desperate evasion follows as talons narrowly miss. Raccoon City is no simple ghost town. A rookie cop arrives for his first shift only to uncover things that should not exist. In every shadow, something crawls. From arachnid horrors to ceiling-bound predators, there is no time for thought. The licker is a patient hunter. Cornered by a mountain of teeth and claws, the subject finds a primitive tool and makes every strike count. In a world collapsed, only the mission remains clear.
Raccoon City has become a graveyard where every shadow hides a patient predator.
Survival here is not guaranteed. It is fought for inch by agonizing inch.
Crucial evidence often serves as the only beacon in this encroaching darkness.
Even among allies, secrets are buried deep within the earthen rubble.
Precision is vital when the deceased refuse to remain at rest.
Here we see a specimen in peril. Every corner is a death trap. Note how the very ground collapses beneath the subject's feet. In this ecosystem, precision is the only thing that keeps one breathing. He must make every shot count.
The dominant male must use the environment to his advantage or be consumed by it.
When predators close in, he does not panic.
A long road awaits in the fog. A harrowing commute through this urban wasteland.
The dominant male must clear his path with explosive force.
He secures a high-powered vessel capable of leaping across treacherous highway divides. Rivals launch projectiles in a desperate display of territorial aggression.
The local inhabitants pursue with relentless instinct, showing no regard for personal space.
Raccoon City is a nightmare. On wheels, it is a playground.
At every turn, a new predator emerges, eager to consume its prey. Yet, speed remains the one variable these monsters simply cannot calculate. Be fearless.
In this concrete jungle, one must either dominate the asphalt or perish within it.
Raccoon City was no longer a city. I arrived at the coordinates, but nothing prepared me for this devastation.
Marvin passed the torch. Now, the burden of survival rests solely on me.
Every dark alley and broken threshold now feels like a lethal trap.
The precinct was once a sanctuary.
A map found.
Raccoon City was no mere disaster. Here, the dominant predators of the political world scavenge for a hidden truth. The digital remains reveal a grim lineage of experiments that defied the laws of nature. But these specimens did not perish. They evolved into a terrifying new subspecies. Observe the young female. The hierarchy shifts. The masters are now the prey in their own laboratory. Observe the human mind as it drifts into a realm where dreams become indistinguishable from reality.
Deep within this subterranean habitat, a predator lurks, unseen within the shadows.
She secures a vital tool for survival, yet the environment begins to distort around her. Apparitions emerge, followed by a most peculiar and menacing mechanical specimen. Some secrets were never meant to be found. Watching her pass on that screen, the guilt becomes a nightmare. Truth hides in these shadows, and it is hungrier than we imagined. Wesker doesn't have time to spare, and honestly, neither do we. Observe the concrete jungle of Raccoon City, a habitat now consumed by primordial chaos. Shadows of the former inhabitants linger, caught in a state of eternal digital decay. A civilization unraveled, leaving only the stark remains of its history. A dominant predator emerges from the shadows, fueled by an insatiable biological directive. A routine mission has descended into absolute nightmare fuel. One moment we observe a targeted strike on an organic growth, the next, total chaos. As the structure collapses, the subject is forced into a desperate, death-defying leap for survival. He descends further into the chasm, seeking refuge within the belly of this concrete beast. But here, the environment is hostile. He must purge a garden of mutated predatory flora. The surrounding architecture reveals a grim truth. A seemingly desolate facility, yet life stirs within. Invasive fog obscures the path while complex mechanisms seal the exit.
Our subject must navigate a digital map to survive this clinical labyrinth. A sudden territorial display as predators emerge from the grey.
The struggle intensifies, revealing a rival of far greater speed and aggression. Every sterile corridor feels like the jaws of a trap. In this unforgiving environment, speed is the only currency of survival. A predator lurks in every shadow, making every heartbeat a calculated gamble. Survival demands more than retaliation. It requires a forceful breakthrough. The onslaught is relentless, yet the subject must push forward, regardless of cost. In the chaos of the struggle, maintaining one's grip is essential.
This is as far as they go.
The subjects are trapped in a nightmare, pursued by a predator that ignores pain. Caught in a centrifuge of chaos, the pair clings to survival. The alpha believes he has won, mistaking their desperate struggle for true weakness. They must ignore the searing heat and find an opening before the habitat is destroyed. A struggle for survival begins as the subjects awaken within a nightmare. The containment facility is failing, and the horrors once hidden are now unleashed. Every path is a lethal snare. Invasive organic matter consumes the architecture, signaling a total ecosystem collapse. The apex predators must now engage in a desperate, violent ritual to ensure their own preservation. Here we see the subject engaged in a desperate race against total chaos. In this sterile habitat, survival requires instantaneous, calculated movement. A simple mechanical interaction triggers a massive, inevitable chain reaction. The shadows push back. In this environment, tactical precision is the only ally. One misstep and the subject is surrounded by things that should have stayed dead. A descent into a truly living nightmare. In every corner, creatures that defy nature itself lie in wait. The licker, blind yet relentless, an apex predator within these decaying metal corridors. The biological toll is immense. Adrenaline can only sustain the organism for so long. Consciousness begins to fade. The subject hears voices, yet his body refuses to respond. Yet he persists, all while an unseen observer monitors his every struggle. Everything we knew about power is about to change forever. The machine awakens, but the price of this destiny is steeper than imagined. Betrayal is the only currency here. When the masks fall, the true monsters emerge. The bond is severed. Now we witness a desperate struggle for survival. The subject finds himself in a mechanical abyss. Plummeting into chaos, he prepares for a grim encounter. Here we see a specimen possessing mutations that defy nature itself. An apex predator of the industrial age, truly a horror. Its cry is no longer human, but a weapon forged in agony. The dominant male of the household refuses to yield this territory. Observe the lone survivor thrust into a landscape of visceral biological horror. He encounters a fragile specimen, providing protection against the encroaching darkness. An apex predator emerges, a grotesque distortion of the natural order. With calculated precision, the male strikes at the organism's vital, glowing nucleus. Deep in this concrete tomb, the extraction team begins its hunt. Above, a civilization fractures. Below, we move through the grit and shadow. Boots down, we have visual. Our asset survives, but the environment remains hostile. Hannigan watches from afar, a moment of relief, yet the clock is relentless. The specimen, Mr. Kenny, carries the burden of survival. If the antigen holds, there is hope.